here with Giancarlo Esposito, and we're very happy that he's come here to us to interview. And how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, thank you.
That's really great. So the role of Gustavo Fring is very complex. He is one of the most interesting villain characters on modern television. How did you prepare for this difficult role?
I made some choice decisions. You know, when I read the script, one of the lines that really appealed to me was about a man hiding in plain sight, and I started to think about how many people do I know who have double lives and are hiding in plain sight. And I started there. I was really inspired by the writing of him. I had been a waiter for a lot of years in a restaurant, and I love the fact that we assume that he's just the manager of this chicken restaurant, and that he really underneath is someone else. So I started to layer all of these ideas behind that, and hoping that they would catch on, and they were inspired by what I was doing and asked me to come back, and it blew up from there. As an actor, and many actors, they get a script and they flip through the pages and they look to see how much they're in it.
Right.
And for me, as I grew as an actor, I wanted to see what was being said, what was being represented by the whole film, by the whole project, what was the message. And so I looked, specifically with Breaking Bad, at this journey of Walter White, and I really related to it at a time in America where people were floundering and having a hard time feeding their families.
Absolutely.
And one man who's sick and possibly going to die soon really has a good intention.
Yes.
Of trying to leave something behind, and it turns into the bad intention of greed and money and drugs and all the things he gets involved in to sort of capture and possess his good intention. It all goes awry. And I was fascinated with that particular story and that message. Some of us get lost in pursuing one thing for a good reason, and it turns into something really bad.
Right, yeah. I feel that's something that's very timely as well in the economic distress, as you said earlier. And I think that's what draws a lot of people into watching Breaking Bad, is the fact that it's this guy who's just like an average guy, and he gets wrapped up in all of this just with good intentions. And I like that you choose it for the story and not just for, you know, this character is interesting and I'll get a lot of like exposure if I do this.
Exactly. You know, for me, after it's been 48 years in the business, and I realized that I don't want to be the best thing in a bad show. I want to be commensurate and equal to actors that challenge me and writers that challenge me.
Absolutely.
It's really important for my own growth. And there's not a day that I'm on set where I don't learn something.
That's very important. If you're learning wherever you're working, that's definitely something that'll keep you busy and keep you happy when you're there.
Absolutely.
So have another question about Breaking Bad. Do you think Gus is a prudent businessman despite his obvious flaws, or is he just evil?
I think he's a prudent businessman. And it capped itself in 401, where I just thought he did this despicable thing in the box cutter episode, and then I realized it and went back. You know, we had been away for a long time on hiatus after the last episode of season 3.
I remember that time. That was a stressful time.
Yeah, everyone was like waiting for the show to come back. And I had to go back and start to think about the last parts of season 3 and what actually happened, and all of a sudden the light bulb went off. The whole reason he does this is not for revenge or to send a message, it's because the family was compromised. Now, you realize at the end of season 3, we realize he not only has 17 pollos hermanos, he also has the laundry. And there are all these regular people who work for him. And you know, as exemplified by the scene where he's teaching the guy how to cook chicken, you know, he's back there.
Yeah, I feel like people really overlook the fact that Gus is so like into what he's doing. You know, he's not just a meth distributor. I mean, that's obviously where he makes his money and that's where he develops his craft. But he's also just like, he's trying to like get by and trying to help these people also get by, and he has different methods than most of us do.
That's right.
But you know, he has like this family aspect. There's a line in an episode where he is actually speaking to Walt. He's cooking dinner for him. And he actually says, you know, my kids don't eat the fish like this. And that confused a lot of fans because they were not grasping that Gus was at the core a family man. What is your take on that line?
Oh, I agree with you. It really was, to me, illuminating. Not only for me, but for the audience, that he is a family man, that he is... and he has a bigger family of business people, but that he's very exacting and very prudent and very caring about people. So I adopted the thought that he wants to bring people to their best selves.
So you just mentioned that you work on a show called Revolution. Can you tell me a little bit of background information on that show?
Yeah, it's a show about 15 years into the future where we're faced with no power in the U.S. at all, and so there's no power whatsoever.
That's not too far off, I feel.
I don't think so. And if we don't start and continue to cultivate some other means of powering us up outside of oil, we're going to have this problem. And so the infrastructure of America falls apart, and militias take rise, and we have a world that is controlled by certain groups of people, and it's all about money.
That's
greed.
very much what I feel is happening right now as well. We're destroying a lot of these countries, and then we're trying to build them right back up, and we're doing it through money.
That's
we're
right.
not doing it through true infrastructure
That's
and
right.
stuff like that. So I'm very interested in that kind of show. Like, that sounds really interesting.
We call it a post-apocalyptic show, but it really is a show about family trying to find each other across this desperate landscape as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like you do a lot of social commentary in your work, like Do the Right Thing, obviously. It was very much about race relations of that time. Revolution, it sounds like, has a lot of social commentary in it as well, in terms of destruction and how greed can cause more destruction. What kind of social commentary do you feel came out of Breaking Bad, if any, having to do with the meth distribution industry?
I started to really look at the parts of the country where these underground meth labs are, and people blowing themselves up trying to home make meth and do all these things for a drug. Some do it for money, others do it because they're hooked. And then I started to look at the photographs of people before and after, and what a short period of time it took for them to devastate their bodies and die. And I thought, this is just wild.
Absolutely.
You know, how does this happen? And we in our big cities don't know that much about it. And so partly why I took the show was to be a part of that.
We're going to wrap it up, but thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for being here. We've been
pleasure.
seeing Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes.
He's famous for Breaking Bad, and he's also in Revolution. He is making some films. He is a really awesome guy, awesome to talk to. Thank you so much for being here.
What a pleasure. Thanks for a great interview.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. You're welcome.